The soil crumbled between my fingers as I knelt in what was left of my inheritance, 200 acres of supposedly worthless Oklahoma farmland. My brother Marcus's words still rang in my ears. "Enjoy your dirt, little sister. Dad always said you had your head in the clouds. Now you can stare at them all day long." I watched his Mercedes kick up dust as he drove away, probably heading back to his penthouse in Dallas where he'd count his millions. The unfairness of it all made my throat tight. Our father's will had been clear. Marcus got the family business, the investment portfolio, the city properties. I got Grandpa Joe's old farm. My name is Anna Foster, and at 28, I just inherited what everyone in my family considered a worthless piece of land. The farm had been in our family for 3 generations. Grandpa Joe had worked it until his death 15 years ago. After that, it sat abandoned while my father focused on building Foster Industries into a multi-million-dollar energy company. What am I supposed to do with this? I'd asked at the reading of the will, staring at the deed in disbelief. Sell it for whatever you can get, my mother suggested, adjusting her designer scarf. Though I doubt anyone would want it. That land hasn't produced anything in years, but something stopped me from listing it for sale. Maybe it was the memory of summers spent here with Grandpa Joe, listening to his stories as we walked the fields. He always had a glint in his eye when he talked about the farm, like he knew something no one else did. "This land has secrets, Anna girl," he'd say, patting the soil. "Most folks are too busy looking up at the sky to see what's right under their feet." I dismissed it as the ramblings of an old farmer. But now, standing in the middle of my inheritance, those words came back to me. The farmhouse was in better shape than I expected. Dusty and abandoned, yes, but the bones were solid. I'd moved in 2 days ago, using my savings to get the electricity and water turned back on. My mother nearly had a heart attack when I told her my plans. "You're going to live there? In that shack?" She clutched her pearls dramatically. "Anna, be reasonable. You have a degree in geology. Use it. Marcus says he might have an entry-level position at Foster Industries. But I'd rather live in a shack than work under my arrogant brother. Besides, my geology degree might actually be useful here." Something about the property's topology had been nagging at me since I arrived. I spent that first week exploring every inch of the farm. The old barn still held Grandpa's equipment, covered in decades of dust. His office was a time capsule, maps spread across the walls, filing cabinets full of yellow papers, and his old desk exactly as he'd left it. That's where I found the first clue. I was cleaning out the desk drawers when I discovered a false bottom in the top right drawer. Hidden underneath was a leather-bound journal and a set of coordinates marked on a faded map. The journal was Grandpa Joe's, filled with his cramped handwriting. Most entries were typical farmer's notes about weather and crops, but some passages caught my eye. "Found another outcropping today. Same mineral composition as the others. The Japanese buyers are getting more interested. Must keep this quiet. The big energy companies would swoop in if they knew." My hands trembled as I read on. Grandpa had been doing more than farming. He'd been prospecting. But for what? The coordinates on the map marked locations all over the property. I spent the next day checking them with my geological survey equipment. At each spot, I found unusual rock formations exactly where Grandpa had marked them. I took samples, staying up late into the night analyzing them in the makeshift lab I'd set up in the farmhouse kitchen. When the results came back, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Lithium. The worthless dirt my brother had mocked was sitting on top of one of the largest lithium deposits I'd ever seen. Lithium, the essential component in electric car batteries, phones, and renewable energy storage. The metal that was becoming more valuable than gold as the world shifted toward green technology. My supposedly worthless inheritance was worth billions. I stayed up all night reviewing Grandpa's journals. He discovered the deposits decades ago but kept them secret, knowing that big energy companies like Foster Industries would try to take the land if they knew. He'd been in talks with Japanese technology companies about a potential deal when he died suddenly. The secret had died with him, until now. But I couldn't just announce my discovery. First, I needed to secure my claim and find the right partners, ones who would help me develop the resource responsibly. Grandpa's journals mentioned a Japanese businessman he trusted, Akira Tanaka. I wondered if he was still in the industry. A quick internet search showed that Tanaka was now the CEO of one of Japan's largest technology companies. I drafted a careful email, mentioning Grandpa Joe and including some preliminary geological data. His response came within hours. I remember your grandfather well. He was an honorable man. Would you be willing to meet in Tokyo next week? I booked the flight immediately, using most of my remaining savings. But before I left, I had an unexpected visitor. Marcus's gleaming Mercedes pulled up to the farmhouse, spewing dust. He stepped out in his $1,000 suit, looking around with disdain. Still playing farmer, he smirked. I've got good news for you, little sister. Foster Industries is expanding. We might be interested in this land after all. My heart stopped. Did they know? Really? I kept my voice casual. Last week it was worthless dirt. Let's just say we've had some new geological surveys done in this area. I'm prepared to offer you twice what this property is worth. Being generous to my little sister. Twice nothing is still nothing, I thought. But out loud I said, that's kind of you, Marcus, but I think I'll hold on to it for now. His face hardened. Don't be stupid, Anna. You can't farm this land. It's worthless for agriculture. Take the money. No. He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me like he had when we were kids. Listen carefully. Foster Industries is going to develop this region with or without your cooperation. Dad left me in charge for a reason. Don't make this difficult. I stood my ground. The answer is no, Marcus. This is my land. Grandpa Joe left it to me through Dad for a reason too. That old fool, he sneered. He was too busy daydreaming to build anything real. Like father, like daughter, I guess. Last chance, Anna. Sell to me now, or things might get complicated. Get off my property, I said quietly. He grabbed my arm. You never did know your place. The sound of a shotgun pump action cut through the air. We both turned to see Betty Henderson, our nearest neighbor, standing on her porch with a 12-gauge. The lady asked you to leave, Betty called out. Best do it while your fancy car still has all its windows. Marcus released me, straightening his suit. This isn't over, he said through clenched teeth. Don't say I didn't try to be fair. As his Mercedes roared away, Betty walked over, shotgun resting casually in the crook of her arm. You okay, honey? I saw his car and thought I'd better check on you. Never did like that brother of yours. I rubbed my arm where Marcus had grabbed me. I'm fine. Thank you, Betty. Your grandpa was a good man, she said thoughtfully. Smart too. Smarter than most folks knew. I looked at her sharply. Did you know? About what's under this land? She smiled. Joe and I were friends for 40 years. He told me to keep an eye on this place, make sure it went to the right person. She patted my shoulder. Looks like it did. That night, I read more of Grandpa's journals. The last entry, dated just before his death, caught my eye. The land knows who it belongs to. Money doesn't make a person worthy of it. Heart does. My Anna girl understands that, even if she doesn't know it yet. When the time comes, she'll know what to do. I looked out over the darkened fields, thinking about the billions of dollars lying beneath them. Marcus thought he could bully me into selling, just like he bullied me all our lives. But Grandpa Joe had been right about one thing. I didn't know what to do. And my brother was about to learn that sometimes the dirt he mocked was worth more than his entire empire. Tokyo was a world away from Oklahoma farmland. I sat in Akira Tanaka's elegant office on the 40th floor of a gleaming skyscraper, watching his face as he reviewed my geological surveys. Your grandfather, he said finally, was a very wise man. We knew about the lithium deposits 15 years ago, but the technology for extraction wasn't advanced enough then. Now, he smiled. Now the timing is perfect. Over the next 3 hours, we discussed terms. Tanaka Technology would provide the capital and expertise for extraction. They'd use new environmentally friendly mining techniques that would preserve the topsoil. I would maintain majority ownership and control of the land. The deposit is worth approximately $4.2 billion at current market prices, Tanaka said, but that value will likely triple in the next 5 years as demand for electric vehicle batteries increases. My hands trembled as I signed a preliminary agreement. I'd just become a billionaire, all because my family had been too short-sighted to see what Grandpa Joe had known all along. But my brother wasn't going to let go easily. When I returned to the farm, I found Foster Industries surveyors on my land. They scattered when I approached, but their presence was a clear message. Marcus wasn't done. That evening, my mother arrived unannounced, wearing city clothes entirely unsuited for the dusty farm. Darling, she began, perching awkwardly on my porch chair, Marcus tells me you're being difficult about selling the farm. He's trying to help you. Is that what he calls it? I showed her the bruises on my arm from his last visit. She flinched but pressed on. Foster Industries has plans for this whole region. Major plans. Your father would have wanted you to be reasonable about this. Dad's not here, I said quietly. And neither of you ever bothered to understand what Grandpa Joe built here. Built? She laughed brittly. Anna, it's a failed farm. The crops barely grow. What could he possibly have built? I considered telling her everything, about the lithium, about Tanaka, about the billions lying beneath her feet. But I remembered how she dismissed Grandpa Joe when he was alive, treating him like some quaint embarrassment to our sophisticated family. You'll find out soon enough, I said instead. The next morning, I woke to the sound of heavy machinery. Foster Industries bulldozers were lining up at the edge of my property. Marcus stood watching them, a smirk on his face. Last chance, little sister, he called out as I approached. I've got eminent domain paperwork ready to file. One phone call to my friends at the state capitol and this land becomes Foster Industries property. Save yourself the embarrassment. I pulled out my phone, dialed Tanaka's number on speaker. Mr. Tanaka, it's Anna. We have a situation. Should I have your lawyers contact Foster Industries directly about their attempted theft of Tanaka Technologies' newest lithium mining operation? Marcus's face went white. Lithium. Did you know? I smiled sweetly. Those geological surveys you had done, they weren't very thorough. Grandpa Joe found this deposit decades ago. That's why he fought so hard to keep this land in the family, though I doubt he expected his own grandson to try to steal it. You're lying, Marcus sputtered. If there was lithium here, Dad would have known. Dad was too busy building his oil empire to listen to an old farmer, just like you were too busy mocking my worthless dirt to see its real value. Tanaka's voice came through the speaker, cold and precise. Ms. Foster's lithium claim is fully documented and legally secure. Tanaka Technology has committed $3 billion to its development. Any interference will be met with immediate legal action. The bulldozer's engines died as Marcus frantically signaled them to stand down. You can't, he started. Can't what? Succeed without your help? Build something bigger than Foster Industries? Sorry, brother, but it turns out I'm better at business than you thought. Now get your equipment off my land before I have them impounded. He left, but I knew it wasn't over. That night, Betty came by with a warning. Your brother's been asking questions around town, trying to find anything he can use against you. He's desperate. Let him try, I said. I've got something he doesn't. What's that? Grandpa Joe's journals. Every detail of his discovery, every conversation, every survey. Including, I pulled out a particular entry I found, his meetings with our father where he tried to tell him about the lithium. Betty's eyes widened. Your daddy knew. He dismissed it without even looking at the evidence, called it old man's fantasies, and told Grandpa to stick to farming. It's all documented here, including witnesses. If Marcus tries to claim Foster Industries had prior knowledge or rights to this discovery, these journals prove otherwise. The next day, I had visitors. Foster Industries Board of Directors. They called an emergency meeting after learning about the lithium discovery. Marcus had kept his certain acquisition quiet even from them. Ms. Foster, the board chairman said, we'd like to discuss a partnership. No thank you, I replied. I already have excellent partners. But you might want to discuss with my brother why he hid this opportunity from the board while attempting to acquire the land through intimidation. 2 days later, Marcus was forced to resign as CEO. Foster Industries stock plummeted as the news broke about the lithium deposits they'd missed. My mother called, crying, begging me to help save the family company. Family? I asked. Like when you stood by watching Marcus try to bully me off my land? Or when you dismissed Grandpa Joe as a foolish old man? Anna, please. Foster Industries is your father's legacy. No, Mother. This farm is my legacy. Grandpa Joe knew its value, not just in minerals but in teaching us what really matters. Marcus wanted to strip mine this land, destroy everything Grandpa built. I'm going to develop it responsibly, preserve the topsoil, create something sustainable. The next month was a whirlwind. Tanaka's engineers arrived to begin preliminary work. The technology they brought was incredible, new extraction methods that would barely disturb the surface. We could even still farm parts of the land while mining below. Betty helped me restore Grandpa's old farmhouse, making it my headquarters. In his office, I hung his portrait next to the first lithium sample we extracted. The Japanese engineers insisted on it, saying the old farmer's wisdom had seen what modern companies had missed. Marcus tried to contact me several times, but I let his calls go to voicemail. Finally, he showed up at the farm again, but this time there was no Mercedes, no fancy suit. He looked tired, defeated. "I underestimated you," he said quietly. "You and Grandpa Joe both." "Yes, you did." "I don't suppose, is there any place for me in this new venture of yours?" I thought about it. "Maybe. Not in management, you've proven you can't be trusted there. But we'll need someone to handle community relations, make sure this development benefits the local area. It's hard work, not very glamorous. Lots of meetings with farmers and small business owners. The kind of people I used to look down on," he said ruefully. "Exactly. Think you can handle that?" He looked around at the farm, seeing it with new eyes. "I'd like to try, Grandpa Joe. He used to try to tell me things, but I never listened." "Well," I said, "start listening now." 1 year later, the Tanaka Foster Lithium Project was fully operational. We developed new mining techniques that became industry standards for environmental responsibility. The farm still produced crops, now watered by state-of-the-art irrigation systems. Marcus turned out to be good at his new job once he learned to respect the people he worked with. He even started keeping a journal like Grandpa Joe's, documenting daily life on the farm-turned-mining operation. My mother took longer to come around, but the first time she saw the restored farmhouse with its modern additions, something changed in her expression. "Your grandfather," she said softly, "would be very proud." I stood on the porch that evening, watching the sunset paint the fields gold. The same fields my brother had mocked, that my father had ignored, that everyone except Grandpa Joe had dismissed as worthless. In his final journal entry, Grandpa had written, "The real value of land isn't just what's beneath it, but what it teaches us. Patience, respect, the wisdom to look deeper than others do. My Anna girl will understand that someday." I did understand now. The lithium had made me wealthy, but the farm had made me wise. And in the end, that was the most priceless inheritance of all. The next morning, I found Marcus in Grandpa's old office, studying the geological maps on the wall. "You know what amazes me," he said. "All this was here the whole time. We just couldn't see it." "Sometimes," I replied, "the best treasures are right under our feet. We just have to be humble enough to look for them." He nodded slowly. "Grandpa Joe tried to tell Dad about this place. If he just listened, then I wouldn't have inherited it," I finished. And maybe that's exactly what Grandpa wanted. Someone who'd respect the land, not just exploit it. Today, people come from all over the world to study our operation, how we balance mining with agriculture, how we preserve the local ecosystem while extracting valuable minerals. But my favorite visitors are the local school kids who come to learn about geology and sustainable farming. I take them to Grandpa's old office, show them his journals and maps, and tell them his story. About a man who saw value where others saw worthless dirt. About patience and persistence and looking deeper than others do. And sometimes, standing in those fields that once seemed so worthless, I swear I can feel Grandpa Joe smiling, knowing that his greatest discovery wasn't the lithium at all. It was showing us that true wealth isn't always what it seems.